Most web designers take inspiration from other designers, right? Dribble, Behance, Pinterest, you know it. But I think the most raw source of inspiration comes from nature. I believe in God. I think he's the best designer, and actually he designed everything that we see. And so in this video, I want to share with you 5 lessons that we can learn from nature and apply it to our web design layouts to take it to the next level. Let's go. Hello my friend, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Adrian Somoza, former lead designer at MediaMonks, turned full-time consultant, and I now help freelance web designers turn pixels into profit and grow their businesses to a financially peaceful and creatively challenging one. And by the way, I have a quick gift for you. I put together a PDF, right, with 18 typefaces, and it's a curated list of typefaces that I used and I've been using since 2011 for big and small companies, all the way from mom and pop shops to Fortune 500 companies like Adidas, Red Bull, and the Olympics. So if you're interested, link is going to be below. Now we're going to be analyzing this website by hobbies, and there's 5 lessons that I can use this as an example, and I'm going to explain them to you that we can take from nature. Number 1 is unity. Okay, first off, visual unity. Okay, cohesiveness comes from assessing all elements, understanding their relationships, and building a design system as the result. In nature, if you walk into a forest, for example, you will see trees from the same species that maybe repeat with some slight variations between each other, right? And in web design, it's the same thing. We repeat typographic hierarchies, CTAs, colors, etc. across the website, across the composition, with slight variations here and there. So let me explain, okay? Let me show you here. We have, for example, the title. Okay, it's one size, one color, and one typeface. And the guys here repeated that same title throughout the composition. So that H1 is repeated here again, here again, here again, here again. Okay, so throughout the composition, the guys are repeating the H1. Same thing goes for all of the text, right? Like, for example, the navigation items, they all have the same hierarchy or typographic size, color, and typeface again. But also, for example, take a look at the CTAs. We have a primary CTA with this shape here, right? We have a secondary CTA, same shape but different color of the background and of the typeface. And we have a tertiary CTA with a tertiary color, right? So that the contrast between the background goes from full contrast to mid contrast to very slight contrast, okay, depending on the action that the CTA contains. So that's another example of visual unity, right? It's like a forest. You see trees, but they are slightly different. So here it's the same things with, the same thing with components and typographic systems. And then there's conceptual unity, right? Cohesiveness at the ideal level. For example, a desert has sands, dunes, rocks, camels, but it doesn't have whales or waterfalls, right? Choose only elements that belong to the concept. And for that, you need to first create a concept. So for example, for this website, there's like a concept of biochemics, right? Like biochemical, it's a biochemical industry. And so there's like atoms or kind of like graphics that go with this idea of the scientific vibe, right? And if you keep scrolling, for example, there's dots, right? Here in this 3D element, it's with spheres, right? Because it has 3D. But here, there's little tags that have dots and lines, by the way. And here we have again dots, dots, right? And you see this theme of the spheres or the dots coming up throughout the website. There's not a ton of visual graphics changing, there's not a mixture between illustration and 3D and a photo, right? Like real life photo. No, there's just 3D and flat, okay? And that contrast is really nice and it's very cohesive, okay? So that's Unity. Lesson 1, Unity. Let's take a look at lesson 2, which is size and distance. So size and distance means that when you're looking at a landscape, right? Big trees are in the front, then there's something in the middle, right? Or some trees in the middle, and then there's trees very far away, maybe in a mountain, for example. And so in your designs, you can create that depth effect just by changing the size. So for example, if you make this title such a big size, it will be seen or perceived as being in the foreground, while this one is going to be perceived further away, and this small text or this little text here and there are going to be perceived even further away. And so as you scroll within every module, you will see something in the foreground, something in the middle, something in the middle, let's say, and something in the back. Here, for example, we have the spheres and the 3D image is the main thing here, and maybe this is a secondary thing, right? Here we have this in the foreground, secondary, and then tertiary. So think of always 3 levels of depth to create this size and distance or depth effect. And by the way, remember to grab the free PDF that I'm linking below if you're interested in my 18 curated typefaces collection. Lesson number 3 is overlaps. Okay, so another thing that creates depth in nature and in reality is when there's things overlapping. So here you can see, if I turn this camera slightly there, you will see how this screen edge overlaps on top of the background here. I'm in, the center of the frame, and then there's things also in the background here inside the office, but also outside over here that are even further away. So this overlapping of things, and even, the microphone overlapping over me, right, my body, creates this depth, right? This visual effect of depth. So you can create the same type of effect in your designs. So take a look at this one. Like even the parallax, right? And the 3D here are really, really cool to create this depth animation. But then, for example, the fact that this scroll effect starts to overlap even more and more as you scroll over the image creates depth effect. And you can also use this with typography and graphics. So I love to use this type of techniques to create depth. And so here, take a look at how glyphic is on top of this graphic, and as you scroll you can see how it moves in, behind it, and then biotechnologies is in the background. So there's really 3 levels of distinct depth between the elements in the composition, and this kind of gives us this natural vibe. Lesson number 4, repetition. Okay, nature repeats. The sun goes up in the east and it goes down in the west. The trees in a forest repeat. The grass in a field repeats. The flowers in a meadow repeat. The grains of sand at the beach repeat. So repetition in web design clarifies intention and makes compositions more aesthetic. I think the number 1 law of composition is clarity of intention. And when you repeat things, you clarify your intention. That makes our designs more aesthetic, so decisions do not read like mistakes. Okay, so for example, we have 3 navigation items. The 3 are the same. The logo here is the same here as it is here, and it is in the bottom of the page. The titles, like I said, repeat. The hierarchies repeat. The colors repeat. The background colors repeat. Right? We have 2 background colors and that's it, and a third one for the footer. Then CTAs repeat, the 3D graphics repeat, and the colors for the 3D graphics repeat. So you can see it's kind of like setting the design system, the main variables, and then forgetting about changing things. you have to repeat. It's like, you know, you create the sand or some sand particles for the beach, and then you repeat it 1 million times, 1 billion times, and you create a beach. It's not like, oh, let me create a grain of sand, and then let me create something else and something else and something else to create a beach. No, you have to create, the main thing is just sand, and it's like 1 billion times the same grain of sand. So that's kind of like the same idea here. We want to repeat a lot, basically. A lot of our decisions have to be repeated so that we create cohesiveness in our composition. And a very clear difference, I would say, between an amateur designer and a pro designer is pro designers repeat much more, maybe 10 times more than what amateurs repeat. Amateurs set the module, they scroll, and then they forget about what they set on, in the last module, and they start setting a new rules, they introduce new graphics, new decisions, and it starts to become this Frankenstein, right? So make sure that you repeat, that you remember the decisions that you made in the first layer, like the hero, for example, and that you carry through the same decisions throughout the page. And sometimes in a process, by the way, you can do like a quick iteration of the homepage with some decisions that are maybe scattered or are not repeated as much, and then you can go through it and make a really clear pass through it, and make sure to diagnose if you could simplify things and repeat some of the decisions. For example, let me give you an example. Here there's a size of text that is very similar to this one. I would, for example, simplify this system and just make this paragraph the same size as the CTA and same size as this one. I think that the only hierarchy here that is very distinct and that makes sense to introduce it as a new hierarchy here is this one, which is the H2. So we have H1, H2, and paragraph. And you could simplify this one and make it exactly the same as this one. So those are the kinds of feedback, by the way, I give to more beginner level designers so that they can ramp up to a pro level. It's like simplifying from the design system and repeating more. Basically, it's repeating more the same decisions that you already made. Okay, and last lesson is gravity, okay? Gravity attracts mass to mass. In composition, the bigger an element, the more it visually attracts smaller elements to align on the same edge. The more an edge is reinforced by aligned elements to it, the stronger the attraction. Okay, so let me explain. Let's say that we put this title here on this edge. Let me mark the edge very quickly. So let's say this is the edge of the title. So now we have to place the paragraph. Where do we place it? Do we place it somewhere here? No, we place it in the same edge as the title. Why? Because it's a very big mass visually, right? A big visual mass. And so the paragraph here at the right is asking, like, it's like gravitating towards, that strong edge. And then again, the CTA here, although it's not pixel perfect, maybe it's, by the way, it's, an optical adjustment, but it is aligned to this same edge as well, right? They didn't put it, somewhere random, horizontally, right? They made sure that they repeated the same edge. So this type of decisions are very important to create intentionality in your compositions and really take your websites to the next level. Okay, so remember to grab the free PDF that I left with my curated 18 typefaces for web designers. And that's it for today. Hope you found it valuable. If you want to keep learning, keep watching these videos here. And as always, my friend, let's bridge the gap one pixel at a time.